Here's a question. Can a sub $200 speaker be all that you need to achieve hi-fi happiness? Can a sub $200 speaker even be considered hi-fi? Well, let's find out together. So go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe, and let's park our biases at the door for the next couple of minutes, because we're giving an honest look at the Kanto YU Passive loudspeaker. Now, the Kanto YU Passive comes in two sizes. We're reviewing the larger of the two today. Ours features a 1-inch silk dome tweeter mated to a 5 1/4-inch mid-bass driver that, when you combine with the speaker's rear-facing port, gives the YU Passive a reported frequency response of 50 Hz to 20 kHz. Now, Kanto rates the sensitivity at 89 dB with impedance set at 6 ohms, making the YU Passive a relatively easy speaker to drive. The YU is as unassuming and straightforward as they come. As you might expect, the Kanto isn't a bassy speaker, though you can reinforce its bass response by placing it closer to your front wall. We ended up placing them about 12 or so inches off our front wall, and that is the back of the speaker to the wall itself. And doing this firmed up the bass quite nicely, resulting in a more full-bodied sound that had good depth without sacrificing the speaker's rather impressive agility and focus. Now, once set in place, we primarily drove the Kantos with our Audiolab M1 integrated amplifier, which was our favorite pairing. For more budget-friendly combos, we also paired the YUs with the Cambridge Audio AXR 100, the Blue Sound Power Node, and the SVS Prime Wireless Soundbase. The SVS, which is a Class D amp, while the least costly of the bunch, was the weakest pairing, causing the sound of the YUs to thin a bit, but everything else we paired with these speakers sounded great. If we're being honest with ourselves, I doubt many audiophiles would give the YU Passives a second look. But for the other 80% of you watching this, these might be all of the speaker you will likely ever need. Are they the best speakers on the planet? No, and I'll get into why that is in just a moment, but for what they are very easy to love and very difficult to fault. So let's get into it. Bass-wise, the YU Passives are not going to shake your house free of its foundation, nor are they going to kick like a mule when an explosion rips across your screen. That said, with proper placement, the Kantos aren't exactly anemic either. In small to medium-sized rooms, the bass feels appropriate and never boomy, which is to their credit. So bass, while not the deepest, is excellent in terms of its detail, articulation, and speed. If you need more low-end weight, you can always place them closer to a wall, though doing so may, emphasis on may, cost the low notes some of their otherwise impressive detail. But if you don't like a particularly fast-sounding speaker or prefer a slightly mellower, rounder tone, placing the Kantos close to a wall is one way to get there. In terms of mid-range, the YU Passive is clear. The speaker itself is neutral to mildly forward. That is, there is a bit of emphasis placed on the upper mid-range, which gives this speaker a sense of presence without making it seem too in your face. In some regards, it gives me Sonus Faber Lumina 2 vibes, which is high praise considering the Kantos cost about as much as what you're going to pay in sales tax for a pair of Sonus Fabers. Calm down. I am not saying the Kantos are as good as Lumina 2s, but they have that upper mid-range energy, which results in a very immediate, present, and intelligible sound, which makes them very engaging for both music and movies. When watching movies in stereo, their intelligibility is especially noteworthy, for dialogue comes through with center channel-like clarity, something I know Kristi really liked and took special note of. Because of the YU's reliance upon placement to augment its bass response, it has an effect on its mid-range too. As you inch the speakers closer to your front wall, you can inject some weight or body into the mids, but on the whole, you should expect a mid-range that is largely uncolored, neutral to maybe a touch lean or cool, but possessing incredible amounts of detail throughout. As for the highs, this is one area where the Kanto can shine as well as disappoint. Properly set up and when playing back at volumes below insanity, I'm talking about anything below 85 to 90 dB, the Silk Dome tweeter is solid, airy, extended, and detailed, but with a hint of softness that at the extremes keeps things from sounding too harsh or worse, becoming fatiguing. but turn it up too loud and it's not hard for the tweeter to start to beam and become a bit aggressive, maybe even fatiguing to some. I know I was more susceptible to this than Kristi was, and it was only when I pushed the Kanto to its extremes did it become a problem. But it is important to note there is a limit to this tweeter's capability, so I recommend keeping it below 90 for best results. Soundstage-wise, I think the Kantos are outright killers. I love small two-way bookshelf speakers for this reason, and the YUs didn't disappoint. They orally disappear with ease and image like utter champions with terrific center fill and focus. Detail throughout the soundstage is good. If you give them a little room to breathe, you'll definitely hear improvements in soundstage definition and separation. Just know that you're going to sacrifice some bass in order to achieve this. Now, you can always add a sub and enjoy the best of both worlds, but on their own and in small to medium-sized rooms, the Kantos can introduce you to a soundstage that is very easy to appreciate and get lost in. Dynamically, these speakers are surprising. For a small two-way design, they're not afraid to throw down, and because they're detail hounds, they have a good bit of slap when doing so. The caveat to this being that at high volumes, that tweeter can misbehave, but even at lower volumes, the Kantos remain captivating dynamically. So what on earth is the problem? The problem with the Kanto YU Passive speakers is that they're so damn basic that folks may overlook them. The minimalist in me enjoys their simplicity, but I'll admit their visual style is about as exciting as tap water. But if you can get past the fact that they're not going to earn you any audiophile street cred because they're not constructed from unobtainium nor have drivers woven from bald eagle feathers, then you will be in possession of a speaker that is the epitome of everything that you need and nothing that you don't. The only thing left to focus on is the sound, which in this case is surprisingly good. The only other thing to note is that the YU Passive speakers, be it in the 4 or 5¼ inch model, do not have grills of any kind. In terms of comparisons, let's start with the reviewer favorite Sony SS-CS5 three-way bookshelf speaker. Now, I know a lot of people really like this speaker, and in some respects, the Kanto is very similar, but I feel like the YU is more refined with way better manners at the extremes. Not to mention, they are far nicer looking and better constructed in comparison. When I had the Sony speakers in-house, I thought they had good detail throughout the mid-range and up into the tweeter, but they had even less bass than the YUs and sounded way more forward and shrill when pushed. We ultimately decided to not even review the Sonys because for just a little more money, you could end up with a better speaker like the FLUANCE XL8S. Speaking of the FLUANCE XL8S, it is likely the only other speaker near the YU's price that I would urge you to take a look at because it's phenomenal. I may even pick the FLUANCE over the Kanto in the end because I think it's a nicer looking speaker, comes with grills, and has a similar sound. The FLUANCE may be just a touch softer with respect to detail and immediacy, but all in all, both speakers are incredibly straightforward and honest in that they're all about the performance they provide for relatively little money. But the question I'm guessing you really want answered is, should you buy the YU Passive 5¼ inch over the YU 6, which is Kanto's all-inclusive powered speaker option? Well, as I pointed out in my recent video about how audiophiles are bad at math, you're not likely to build a complete 2-channel system around the YU Passives that can do absolutely everything the YU 6s can for less money. But all that aside, if I knew that over time I wanted to experiment with different components, the YU Passive is the smarter buy over the YU 6. If you're a music lover just looking for a set it and forget it system that will let you get on with enjoying your music and have no real intention of joining the larger hi-fi discussion, get the YU 6. Seriously, you'll likely be very happy. But if you're looking for a way into the hobby, the YU Passive is a great jumping off point. And if you get the YU Passives and a simple integrated amp like the M1 or a stereo receiver like the Cambridge Audio AXR100 and come away completely satisfied with what you're hearing, it's okay to stop and not worry about upgrading. You're not hearing things, nor are you less of an audiophile if this type of setup gives you absolutely everything that you need. After living with the basic YU Passive setup for the last few weeks, I can tell you that it is possible to be satisfied, even fulfilled, with a setup as simple as this. I say that because that's how I feel when sitting down and listening to the YU Passive speakers. While I know they're not perfect, nor are they the most special loudspeaker to ever be designed, they're honest. They have no bells, no whistles. They are what they are. And that may be the very reason why I think they're actually pretty special. So that's it. That is now my review of the Kanto YU Passive loudspeaker, but now it's time to find out if Kristi liked them.
Okay, so the other night when we were watching TV, and there was a moment where I actually said out loud, do we really need anything more than this?
Right, yeah, I remember that.
I mean, okay, yes, they were being powered by the Audio Lab, which is not a cheap amplifier.
No.
That amp does kick their performance up a notch.
A little bit, yeah.
But seriously, the dialogue, because we were watching a movie or TV show. Honestly, I can't even remember what it was, but the dialogue was crystal clear, as you noted in your review. And then there was some part where the music soundtrack kicked in, and it literally stopped me in my tracks. It sounded so good.
Yeah.
And it really made me thinking, like, why aren't these enough? Like, can I just get off the hamster wheel and be happy? And for me, for sure, I could. Like, I am really impressed with these speakers. And, like, I know going way back that the Kanto YU 6 speakers were some of the first speakers that you reviewed on the channel, like when the channel kind of got brought back to life. And they were among some of my first encounters with, how do I want to put this?
They were some of your first encounters, I think, with, I guess, better sound or higher end sound, because you were on a cheapy Sony soundbar at that point, so it was a little bit more of a discrete 2-channel experience. And that was, I remember when they got to the house, and you were kind of rediscovering your love of music almost instantaneously with those.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but it has been a while since we still have the YU6.
Yeah, I use them in my office.
But it's been a while since we've really brought them out to play.
Exactly.
So when we got these new Kantos in house, I was like, oh yeah, they really do make a good speaker.
They do.
And it's so affordable.
Yeah.
Honestly, these are great speakers. And if you can't make these work for you for $200, I'm sorry, we can't help you.
Yeah, I think this speaker isn't so much entering into the discussion of law of diminishing returns. It's just one of those things where it's like, if you can't find something to like about this $200 speaker, I think that might be a little bit more of maybe a you problem.
Oh, 100%.
Like you're searching for something to be unhappy about, because in terms of raw performance, I understand if you want better materials, you want better binding posts, you want a prettier look, you want more bass. But within its wheelhouse, and I'm going to say 50 to 20 kilohertz, like it's honest. It does what it says it does, and it does a good job doing it,
Yeah, speaking of looks, I mean, I think the only thing I really disagree with you on is style. And this may surprise you and probably some other people, but I actually really like how they look, especially at $200.
Yeah, I mean, they're unoffensive.
I know that it's a black box, which I have criticized in the past, but typically I've done that when they're charging thousands upon thousands of dollars. And I'm like, give me a freaking break. But for $200,
yeah,
I liken the look of these speakers to the the LBD, the little black dress. They are, simple, nothing too flashy, still modern. I love the matte finish. I actually really like them, the look. The only other thing I really wanted to talk a little bit more about were the pairings, the power pairings with these. I think the Audio Lab M1 was the best option.
Yes.
But I will admit it's more expensive, so it's probably not going to be the first thing someone is looking at to buy if they're in the market for a $200 speaker.
Yes.
I think the next best pairing was, for me, the Cambridge Audio AXR 100. It is a Class AB amplifier, which you probably know, I prefer by now. The Blue Sound was good.
Yeah.
But it's affordable, but still not cheap.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most affordable, but out of all the amps we tested, it is the most full featured. So if you look at it through that lens, if you're buying the AXR 100 and you like streaming music, you're still going to have to buy like a music streamer, right? And so AXR 100 plus a music streamer may put you into the ballpark of where the Power Node is. And so you just kind of have to look at it that way, because the Power Node is a very capable streamer. It's got HDMI. It does a lot of things. So you are spending more, but you're getting more for your money. So that little caveat I wanted to throw in there.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And really the only thing I didn't like with these speakers was the SVS wireless
sound
whatever
base.
it's called.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. But I don't think that's a very good amplifier. To be honest, it's fine. And maybe with the right speakers, it could be a good pairing. But frankly, we've paired that with other speakers in the past, and it's just not been very satisfying. And which is why we ultimately haven't reviewed it. So
yeah, we've had the sound base for maybe almost a year at this point. Very capable product, very well built. To me, it is the epitome of when people criticize Class D sound as not liking it. The sound base has that sound, and it's very neutral, but it's also kind of sterile and dry.
Yeah, and I just think there are better options.
Yeah.
At even cheaper prices. Mm-hmm.
Give or take. Yeah, give or take. I mean, the AXR 100 is not that much different in price to the sound base, in which case it's a 100-watt Class A/B stereo receiver with Bluetooth and DACs, and you're not really going to go wrong.
But I mean, I would even buy the Arylic S50 Pro.
Or the A50
or
Pro.
The A50, over the SVS.
Yeah, if you're looking to build this system on a super stringent budget, and you don't mind Class D, then the A50 is, in my opinion, going to be better. Because I think the music streaming capability of the A50, which is built in, is actually better than Play-Fi, which is what the sound base uses. So I would urge you to go that route potentially, unless you just really want more of a full size component like the SVS, because the Arylic's like that big.
But it would be great for a desktop situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're someone that's like, I don't want powered speakers on my desktop because I want to be able to mix and match, use smaller chip amps and DACs and all of this stuff, and you're really looking for a desktop solution, these are fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
But anyway, to wrap it up, I really had fun with these speakers.
I did too.
I don't care if we were watching movies or listening to music. I never really felt like I was missing anything. No. And honestly, it starts to make me question everything in life. It really does. It makes me feel like either I'm insane or I don't know what I'm hearing.
You know what you're hearing, and you're not insane, but it's just one of those, when you're listening, you're on like day 5 or 6 of living with the product, and you catch yourself totally absorbed in what you're listening to or watching, and then you realize that you're completely absorbed using $700 worth of total equipment, and you realize that you're still getting the goosebumps, you're still tapping your foot, you still got a big, grin on your face. It really does. It begs the question a lot of times, and it happens to me often, which is like, how much drama are we creating for ourselves in this quest for perfection? How much of it is us and not necessarily the product?
I think it's mostly us.
Yeah.
And it makes more and more sense when you start to realize just how confusing trying to decide what to buy becomes, and I can really start to sympathize or empathize.
Either one. You've been in both positions
with our viewers, and when they get on this, this like endless cycle of what to buy, or do I like what I like? Do I like this? Is this enough? Because you spend 5 minutes on YouTube or in the comment section of some, forum on the internet, and you can easily get convinced that you're not hearing what you're hearing, or it's not enough and you didn't spend enough, or I know it's maddening. It's maddening.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, these speakers, if you give them an honest chance, or just I'll take it away from Kanto for a second. If you just give anything an honest chance and really look at it through the lens of what you're trying to achieve, sometimes less is more. And sometimes if you can get past what you may think other people are going to think about you and your system, you might end up spending a lot less money than you thought.
I think that right there is the key, is because we are so easily influenced by our peers.
Yeah.
And that is just that happens in life in general.
Across the board.
So anyway, guys, these are great speakers.
Yeah.
If you're just getting started, or even if you're not, I think these are really, really well made, affordable, and will provide you with a lot of enjoyment.
That's it. All right. That is now our review of the Kanto YU Passive. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, my question of the day for you is this. Why do you think price plays such a big role in our perception of performance? And can a $200 speaker really be enough for you? I want you to be honest. I really do, because I'm very, very curious. Because to be honest with you guys, this speaker surprised the hell out of me. So sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that's a great way that you have all continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And we thank you all very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile. And that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you again for watching. See you on the next video. Bye.